Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone, episode number 481 for the 7th of January 2018. Richard Saunders here with you from Sydney, Australia, and that noise you can hear in the background possibly is an air conditioner, which I normally wouldn't run, of course, when I'm recording, but today is just ridiculous. I flew back into Sydney only a matter of hours ago from lovely, cool California to silly, outrageous heatwave Sydney, Australia. Some parts in Sydney are predicted to be 45 degrees today or even warmer. It's quite a shock. That plus jet lag. What fun. So today, another of the shorter episodes of the Skeptic Zone, due to lots of international travel and jet lag and all sorts of things going on. But an interesting one. A couple of days ago in California, I had the pleasure of joining Eugenie Scott, Dr. Eugenie Scott, and we drove to the big trees. The big trees. Links in the show notes. And we wander around and we chat about the biology and the big trees. Big trees. It was a marvellous experience. You may well be familiar with the famous photograph of people driving a car, a Model T Ford, through a tree. Well, this was in that area. Unfortunately, that tree fell down last year, so we didn't get to see that. Join us as we wander around the big trees in California and just admire their amazing beauty. Also coming up on today's show, more from Maynard from a couple of months ago from the Skeptics Convention. Maynard catches up with Catherine Hughes, who was one of the speakers at the convention, who lost her son Riley to whooping cough and has since with her husband started the Light for Riley Foundation, and also more from the diet skeptic Mandy-Lee Noble, and she discusses more with Maynard about weight loss. And is it good or is it bad or is it necessary or find out. Should you diet? But for now it's time for me to run downstairs, have an extra large cup of coffee. Didn't get too much sleep on the plane last night. It's a long trip from where we flew from San Francisco, changed at LA, and then to Sydney. That's quite a hike. So I'll run downstairs, get a large cup of coffee. While I do that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. California called Big Trees, and I'm with Dr. Eugenie Scott. Hello, Jeannie.
Hi there, how are you?
I'm fine. You're our guide for today. We're almost in a big tree. Now, we're in the Big Tree Museum or Visitor Centre here. And we're looking at photographs of very big trees.
Yeah.
And the promise is we're going to see some big trees. Is that right?
We are going to see big trees, and we're going to see a nice slice of the Sierra Nevada that isn't what people usually think of when they think of the Sierra Nevada. But there's, as you know, I'm sure, there's two kinds of redwoods. There's the coast redwoods, which are the really, really tall ones, which you see at Muir Woods State Park and some of the other places on the coast. And then as you go further inland, you get it's actually another species of the same genus, sequoia. And these are you could call them the giant sequoias. These are the ones that have the huge girth, the huge diameters. They're not as tall as the coast redwoods, but they make up with it. They make up for it in circumference.
The images here in the little museum are quite astonishing. We see pictures taken 100 years ago or so, the 1850s, in fact. or later, with people holding hands to go right around a tree, and there's some kids over there. And this is the famous photograph we see here of the Model T Ford driving through a tree, which isn't there apparently anymore.
Yes, we will be taking that hike a little bit later on. That's a very famous photograph and a very famous tree, which unfortunately a couple of years ago blew down in a big windstorm. So that beautiful tree, which is probably, the hole that the early entrepreneurs who opened up this area to tourist trade, the hole that they dug through the center of this tree is probably a good 9 or 10 feet tall. And it's big enough to drive a Model T through, as it shows in the photograph. But as we will see, that very beautiful old tree is now lying on its side.
That's sad.
And it is a sad thing.
That's sad. Oh, we can't wait. We'll step out soon after we've taken in what the museum has to offer into the big woods. So, and now we've walked outside and we're just about to step up onto this extraordinary site. It's the biggest stump, surely. So we have to walk up a flight of steps here to get onto the stump. Step, 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 step. And it's huge. I'm walking around the circumference of a stump. I'm only about a quarter of the way now. Right round to the other side. Halfway, it gives you some idea of the scale. This is the most extraordinary thing. This is a big tree. We keep saying big trees, but this is amazing.
It's actually gotten worn down in the decades since it was originally cut. We'll go and take a look at the signage and remind ourselves of exactly how big it was when it was cut down. But this was part of the tourist attraction. Sitting opposite us is the rest of the trunk that keeled over. You notice these horizontal drillings almost.
I guess so.
That was how they managed to fill the tree. They would actually take these mining drills and they just drilled in the circumference of the tree until it finally they were finally able to push it over.
You could fit scores of people on this stump.
Well, this was, as I say, it was a tourist attraction, and people would come out here and they would hold dances on the surface of this lovely sequoia tree.
Yeah.
And there's some pictures of the ladies in their fancy long gowns and and the men's in their dress clothes, and they would be whirling away on the top of this natural wonder. It's inconceivable to us today with our sensibilities that we have about preservation of the environment.
I guess so. But this was filled, a very long time ago by the looks of it, I guess. But this again. I'm walking right over to the other side. You're going into the distance now, and I'm at one side. You're at the other,
and you can barely hear me.
And this is a tree stump. This is quite amazing.
Tree. This was the tree that was first sighted by the old hunter-trapper who stumbled upon this grove back in the early 1850s. And so it's called the Discovery Tree. And he went back to tell the people back home, as it were, that there was this tree that had a 25-foot diameter size, and everybody, you've been drinking too much. They just poo-pooed it. But he managed to persuade a couple of other people to come back and take a look at it, and wow, this is really great. So the very next year after this tree was first discovered by white people anyway, speculators came back and stripped the bark off and cut it and cut a hole in it. And as you look across at the portion of the tree that used to be on top of the stump, the huge stump that we're looking at, you can see these horizontal lines running through it. Well, that was produced by the mining augers that were used to fell the tree. And according to the good information provided by Big Trees Calaveras State Park, it took 5 men 22 days to drill all these holes. But the tree did not fall for several days. So then the stump was planed smooth to serve as a dance floor, and a 2-lane bowling alley and bar were built on the fallen trunk. And indeed, of course, it became a tourist attraction.
Well, it's quite impressive. But as I look around, there are many big trees, but there are some huge trees. I mean, the one over there in the distance, that's a almighty tree.
We'll check them all out. We will check them all out. There used to be two of them there, but
that big tree I just pointed out to you in the distance now. That's called the.
That's one of two trees called the Sentinels, which were the original road that was the tourist road that was built in here to open up this country territory in the late 1800s. Used to have two tall trees like that. And they were called the Sentinels. And they were sort of the mark of this trail. But we are continuing.
We are walking along this trail now. A fragile area. It says stay on trail, and we're right in front of a. It's hard to really relay. I mean, we're looking at the base of the tree now, and you think, "Oh, that's impressive." Look at and then you tilt your head up, and you tilt your head up, and you tilt your head up, and way up into the sky. I walk around here, looking straight up through the branches. It's just gobsmacking. The scale of it, the way you have to tilt your head up to see right to the top of these trees. And it's almost like you get a bit of vertigo, Eugenie, looking up at this tree. Well, look at that! Now we're both craning our heads.
It's easy to kind of feel your jaw drop.
Yeah, I don't, and I sort of lose a sense of the height of it because it's so tall.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Well, of course, the coast sequoias are taller, but there's a massivity to these trees that give them, no pun intended, and a little extra heft, as it were. Yeah.
But it's such a pleasant day here. It's January. It's not too cold though. There's no snow, and the woods are just still and quiet, apart from the odd tourist running around.
Yeah, you can, if you sit down on a bench or a stump or someplace and just listen, you can hear lots of birds. You can hear animals rustling in the ground. It's a very definitely natural area. You don't get any, there's no car sounds or anything like that.
So we've come to a decision: Grove Overlook or North Grove Trail.
When you come to a fork in the road, take it. As much as 6 feet in diameter. That's a big branch.
Well, this branch we're looking at now, that's about, 4 feet across, something like that?
Yeah. Probably not 4 feet, but close to pushing 3.
Because just near it is another really big tree.
This is a big tree.
This is a well-named place, actually. And, okay, let's walk around a little bit on this wooden boardwalk. And, oh my goodness me. I thought that last tree was something. Let's crane our heads up. This one, oh my goodness, and it's so thick all the way up.
Yeah, this one's much bigger in diameter, but you can't really see the top very well because we're sitting too close to it. We have to get far away to see the tops. Now there's, if you look off in the distance a little bit, you can see another pretty good sized redwood. Yeah. It's not as big as the one we're standing next to, but at least you can see the top of the tree. And
yes.
That's probably about a 6-story building.
Easily. Oh, more, I think. Oh, more. I have to say more. Yeah. Wow.
I'm terrible at. I told you I was lousy at spatial.
And we're just passing now a fallen tree. It's just dramatic. So as we walk along, we considering the age of these trees. Now your background, of course, is...
They're older than I am.
Are they? That's good to know. Your background, of course, with the evolutionary... It's more with the fauna, I suppose, but certainly the evolution of the trees tells a story, I would think.
Yeah, but I'm crappy as a biologist, as a botanist. I really am not the best person to ask. I mean, the thing, evolutionarily, the reason why we pay attention to trees, the botanists are going to kill me on this, is because of the coevolution of the angiosperms, the trees like these, that produce seeds. because they also produce pollen. Some of the angiosperms produce nectar, and that was very critical in the evolution of insects and other kinds of arthropods that act as pollinators and spreaders of seeds in various ways. So, but yeah.
But what I find interesting is we were just looking at this before, this tree in front of us now, which is yet another giant tree. You're mentioning the way the bark.
It's not actually the bark; it's the tree itself.
Bark, it's the tree itself. It's twisted ever so slightly.
There's a twist to the growth of the tree itself, which acts as to increase the stability of the tree against wind and other erosional factors and stuff.
Which is another product of evolution.
Doesn't always show up in the bark, actually. But
this one, not so much, but you can tell, if you look down this tree now, you can tell how it's twisting slightly in an anti-clockwise direction, I suppose. It depends. You're looking at it from the top or the bottom?
To the right.
To the right.
Also notice while you were looking at that tree that there's a whole series of holes.
Yes.
Those are drilled by woodpeckers and other birds that flickers and creatures that drill holes in trees. The larger ones are very likely used for nesting.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a.
It's interesting now. We're back a bit and we're looking at this particularly big tree. How much of the tree is just nothing, just a big trunk, and then suddenly near towards the top, the last third, something like that, you get these weird, huge branches coming out. That's quite interesting. You got to come here, folks.
Part of you got to come here. Part of that is the the natural selection on trees to maximize photosynthesis.
Right. They're competing with other trees around them.
They're competing with other trees, and the lower branches eventually, you can see in younger trees, the lower branches eventually just kind of,
So the tree concentrates all its photosynthesis gathering on the top where the sun's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's not really a joke, but it's humorous in a way. We turn a corner and we say, oh, look, another big tree. Number 11 in your gut. Wow, that is a big tree.
These two trees were named the mother and son, but they probably began life at about the same side. The mother's been more successful. There you go.
Yeah.
The sun lost much of its... Where's the sun? Do you see the sun?
No. It might be around the other side. Oh, there it is. Okay. If we walk around... Yes, because this tree is so big, it's hiding another big tree around the other side. Oh, wait a minute. No, it's directly behind it. Directly. I'm getting my big trees confused here, folks. In fact, there's two right next, and there's a special bench here. You just sit down on this special bench because the backrest is at about a 45-degree angle, so I can rest my head back and look directly up into the sky at these two incredible trees. I am now standing in a little area between two trees. It's like a cave. It's quite extraordinary. There's a walkway in and a walkway out. I'm standing in a tree. This is amazing. Now, we've just come across a tree here. It fell over who knows how long ago. It's 10, 20, 30 meters long here. It's so big that you can walk down some steps and go right in and under the tree itself. And I'm walking along in a natural tunnel up the middle of a tree which has fallen over. I keep going. It gets dark. It's like a cave. And I'm only going to walk about a third of the length of this tree before the steps come out again. Here we go. Oh, masses of carvings here over the who knows how long. People are carving their initials and their names into this tree. And I pop out the other side. Well, I've never done that before. Walked up the middle of a tree. It wasn't so bad. Well, we're nearly at the end of the walk now, Jeannie, and we can be up close and personal to this amazing little group of trees here, the two sort of grown together then separated. And it even says in the book we can
touch the bark now.
Let's do that, walk over here. This giant tree and touch the bark. Oh, isn't that nice?
It's soft, isn't it? I mean, it's shaggy, obviously,
yeah.
But there's a softness to it. It's not bristly but it's very fibrous. You can really see, where it's has all these little, looks like asbestos. We did actually see some signage informing us that in the bad old days they would strip the bark off of these trees and use it for house insulation.
Yeah.
And you can sort of see why. Kind of a bad idea. This is a pretty rare species. But there's only, 75 groves in all of California that have this particular species of trees. And, of course, a grove can be very small. This is a fairly good-sized grove. But, like we've learned with so many plants and animals, that you need enough territory to maintain a population of an organism. And you can't just plop down a giant sequoia anyplace. It has certain
yes.
environmental requirements.
Certainly not in Australia. Well, Jeannie, thanks very much. What a wonderful outing this has been to see these wonderful trees. And folks, it's called Big Trees for a good reason.
Yes. Calaveras Big Trees State Park. Told you should come here someday, and look, now we've done it.
This is Heidi Robertson from the Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters. We are a group of concerned citizens dedicated to promoting good science and common sense in our region, the far north coast of New South Wales. This area, famous for its natural beauty and relaxed lifestyle, also has the lowest rates of vaccination in Australia. We are out to change that by challenging the myths and misinformation and by providing good evidence-based information to the community. We'd love for you, no matter where you are in the world, to join our fight. Please visit our webpage at www.nrvs.info. We also have a link there to our Facebook page. Tweet us at NRVaxSupporters, that's VAX, and check us out on Wikipedia by searching for Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters. Thank you.
Here's Maynard's spooky action at a distance.
Well, it's a bit relaxed here on the Sunday. It was a huge Saturday night. A lot of people going, I've had one glass of wine, that's not enough. I have to have more before I can get home. But who have we got here?
Catherine Hughes.
And Catherine, what have you made of the Skeptical weekend?
It's my first time coming to anything skeptical. Wow. I did a talk yesterday and the crowd was amazing, and such a fantastic vibe here with people who all think similarly, I hope, to how I think. So really, really interesting to hear people, from all different perspectives. But everyone seems to have the same sort of critical thinking and rational skills. Oh. Well, I was invited to speak here, so that was really the main reason for coming. So yesterday I spoke about Light for Riley and our experience with the anti-vax movement. But, I had been aware of the Skeptics for a couple of years, pretty much since we lost our son to whooping cough, and, identified pretty quickly that these people were like-minded and similar to us.
And rationality tends to be a little bit not have a lot of emotion with it. So when you've had like an emotional experience like you had, is rationality much comfort to you?
I think rationality...
For asking.
That's okay. I think, sometimes when you are so emotional, you turn to rationality because it's the only way that you can really process how you're feeling and process what happened in a traumatic situation. And I think for me, I was raised in a family that was rational. My dad's a scientist, and, just became what I turned to rather than, turn to a God or something like that. Instead, I was like, well, what are the facts? What happened? What can we do better? Let's look at the evidence. And, sort of really turned to my rational side.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised this is your first time, because I thought with what you've been doing you might have caught up, but you've been busy.
Yes, lots of travel, going to baby expos and all sorts of things. So, really happy to come to my first Skepticon.
And you looked great last night too. You all dressed up for the dinner. It was fantastic.
Thank you. Thanks.
My mind, you weren't as good as me because I had the gold suit on.
No one can compare to the gold suit, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
I tried.
On some weird level. And who have we got here?
Oh, Mandy-Lee Noble, dietitian.
Yes, the controversial dietitian.
Oh, I don't see this that controversial, but I have had a few comments about people who saw the episode that was recorded of the Skeptic Zone, and
I'm just going to get my graph of weight loss to show you, because I think you'll find it's very interesting. Where are we? Yes, sneak off there. Yes, actually, what is healthy weight loss? Actually, if you're trying to lose weight, what is the most you should lose? And I love the term white knuckle. That's great.
Well, I don't think there is really any sort of healthy weight loss because all weight loss comes with risks, and I think we're not really thinking too much about the risks around that weight loss. So, I think we should instead be focusing. I mean, for some people, some people will lose weight if they adopt healthier habits, and that's fine. And so I suppose rather than looking at it as a healthy rate of weight loss, we should be focusing on nutrition, which is something dietitians do really well.
Check that out.
Should look at nutrition and healthy habits and let their weight settle where it will naturally when they're adopting the health behaviours that they can adopt in their circumstances.
The whole thing about being healthy when you're obese, that was very interesting too, because I would have thought people with big weight, it's difficult to be fit, but you said, you schooled me.
Well, I think what we need to understand is that healthy is something that's a bit of a slippery slope. It depends on how you define it. So there's, physical health and mental health and social health. They're all part of it. So rather than looking at as, healthy, what I'm more looking at is the pursuit of health, like being the health that you want to gain at every size. So someone might be considered unhealthy and be a normal weight. Someone might be considered quite healthy because they're metabolically healthy at a higher weight. But I think, whatever body we have, that's the only body we get. That's our one vessel for life. Mm-hmm. So it's not really much good wishing it was a different body. We've got to love the one we've got and do what we can with it.
So, dietitian, heal thyself. What's the thing that you get a bit annoyed with about yourself, with either your eating habits or the way you look or that kind of thing? Do you have anything?
I do. I have one health habit that I would really love to change, Maynard, and
Everyone.
that is... No.
Okay.
It might sound... I don't sleep near enough. And, I am terrible at getting myself onto bed, and I don't sleep.
Your brain doesn't switch off. I do have that sometimes. I put my head down and you think, I'm going to sleep. Oh, hang on, I'm thinking about stuff that happened 2 or 3 years ago or 10 years ago, and you're going, how do we turn this off? Yeah, and you have some chamomile tea, you might have some milk.
Yeah, I have some pretty terrible sleep hygiene, which is what people call it. So I do take sometimes the electronic devices to bed and flick through those and all those nasties that I shouldn't be doing.
I've often got stuff in my ears, often your voice and that sort of thing, and that's okay as long as it stops at a certain time. You put the sleep control on.
Yeah, so actually, I've noticed.
Kids?
I do have children.
Oh,
Maynard.
well, you're never going to sleep for 10 years or so. I mean, really, you thought you could actually sleep and have children? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, I actually have 4 children, so I'm pretty busy. But, and that's part of it because, I want to write and to record podcasts and things like that about what is evidence-based health. And often the only time I get to do that is once everyone's gone to bed, and I find myself being up an extra few hours and not getting enough sleep.
You can't be too loud.
No, well, they're fairly good sleepers, but you've got to be a bit quieter around the house and stuff like that. So look, I don't recommend anyone sort of deprive themselves of things, because what usually happens is they end up through restraint, then just overloading on it when they give themselves permission.
But it means I go nuts at a party, but then when the party's over, that's it.
Yeah, if that's kind of it, I think if I'm a big advocate in intuitive eating, which is listening to hunger and fullness cues and acceptance of all foods, but definitely mindful eating. So if you do all of those things, you find it often a bit that you don't tend to pig out on those sort of foods. Because when we think about overeating of those foods, quite often we're doing it a bit mindlessly, like we're doing it pretty quickly, we're not enjoying it.
And so if it's not in the house, you don't go to it,
If that's kind of a bit of a restraint still. What I like to do is more get people to just eat intuitively, so know their hunger and their fullness and their appetite, and be able to have whatever they like in the house and eat according to what their body tells them. Okay. So when you I work with permission to eat all foods. So giving yourself permission to eat all foods and those sort of things.
So let me see. At the moment, I am 76 kilograms and I'm 6 foot. So how's that sit?
I don't know. I'd have to go. But whether that makes you healthy or not, it depends. Whether you're healthy or not depends on a whole heap of things. So it depends on those three things: your physical health, which your metabolic health. So weight and height are not really good indicators of metabolic health. So, it depends on whether your bloods are good and those sort of things. And then it also depends on your social well-being and your mental health.
Well, that's gone to hell. I mean, really. You've seen me all weekend. I've been running around. I haven't had, I've managed to talk to a few important people once or twice, and that's about it. And is it great mixing with Kath? Is she great?
Yeah. There's lots of really great people here.
Yeah, I've been getting her to introduce herself every time because I'm meeting so many people. You have to say their name again all the time. And and I'm surprised this is her first skeptical thing.
Yes, I am, and she's a really great speaker, and I think she's done just amazing work with what she's done with
and what she's been through. I can't imagine that. I mean, you're a mother, of course, so you can have an inkling, but as a guy with no kids and never going to have them, I'm going. It's almost like I'm embarrassed talking to her because I can't reference what's happened to her.
Yeah, it is really hard, and she's so beautifully generous with sharing her story. I see lots of people come up and ask her, and she just doesn't even blink. She's really generous with her experience, and she's really passionate about ensuring that other parents don't have to experience what she did, which is just a really loving thing to do. So just amazing.
Look, good luck with getting some sleep. Is the problem with the lack of sleep you don't like the bags under the eyes, or you wake up going, I'm grouchy?
No, sleep definitely affects our health like all other things. So not getting enough sleep can definitely affect your body biochemistry and can affect your risk of chronic disease and all of those things. So, it's wanting for health, but also wanting to enjoy myself a bit better in life. I'm a bit tired sometimes.
Well, look, you've had a great weekend. It's been fantastic. What's been your favourite moment of the weekend?
I think, certainly Dr. Carl's talk was pretty fun, and I really enjoyed that. Definitely meeting everyone. So a lot of these people I've seen online, but I haven't met them.
Come back and visit us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll definitely be back again.
Sziasztok!
Всем привет!
Hejsan allihop! Guys, I just had the most amazing experience.
What experience, Andras?
Andras, have you been to the pub? I told you not to hang out with Marsh. You know he was blessed by Peter Popov.
No, Yelena, I'm not talking about psychics. It was a real ESP experience.
You have been to the pub. Either that or you've been smoking something.
No, Pontus. The ESP is the European Skeptics podcast. It's the most amazing thing. You get to know so much about skeptics and their activities across Europe. You know, events, hot topics, and interviews with lots of interesting people.
Oh, wow, cool. By the way, Pontus, you just committed the false dichotomy fallacy.
I guess that means I'm really wrong.
Yep. And you can even learn about those fallacies on the show and hear about people spreading silly ideas. You should really check it out. It's the ESP, the European Skeptics podcast. It's on every week.
All right, so where can I get this ESP experience? It sounds good.
You can go online at theesp.eu, follow it on Twitter at espodcast_EU, or like the podcast on Facebook. Oh, and you can also contact the show by sending them an email to info@theesp.eu. And if you want to subscribe, do a quick search for the European Skeptic podcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, or Stitcher.
I don't know how you can believe.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone, the abbreviated version for this time of year. I hope you understand, with lots of travel and other things going on. But never fear, we have an interesting year of the Skeptic Zone. 2018 lying ahead of us. Thank you to those people, those lovely people who subscribe to the Skeptic Zone via PayPal, Patreon. Your contributions really help. Thank you, Stuart Ferguson, who recently sent in a very welcome donation. It all helps, and it all keeps the show ticking over. But now it's time for me to run to bed. I think the coffee only works so much with jet lag. Hey, if anybody has a cure, let me know. Until next week, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Heatwave, Sydney, Australia. You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for show notes, contacts, and to access the back catalogue of episodes going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone podcast on Twitter at Skeptic Zone, visit our Facebook page, or leave a review on iTunes. You can also support the Skeptic Zone via Patreon or PayPal. You can be part of the show by downloading the Voice Byte app at voicebyte.com and using the hashtag Skeptic Zone. The Skeptic Zone podcast is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian Skeptics or any other skeptical organisation.